Hey everyone, Mr. Evans here with your pre-recorded live lesson for Unit 4, Lesson 3, History of Classification. You're going to notice that a lot of these lessons are very similar. You're going to be hitting the same material more than once. Sometimes Miss Nordquist will be doing the lesson on it, sometimes I will, and a lot of times in Connexus the material overlaps, and that's okay. You're going to be looking at stuff multiple times, and that just kind of helps you remember it a little bit. So these lessons the first few lessons of this unit are all about classifying different species of animal, and having a classification system is important so you know what you're talking about. It's a naming system. It's just a way of separating out species in a kind of a unified way so that scientists can intelligently talk about different animals and plants and species that they're looking at and studying, and also for everyday use too. Now, we may not use the scientific names in everyday use, but we're still classifying animals. It's important to know the difference between a lion and a tiger, even though they're very similar animals. So we're just going to go into some of the ways you can separate those out, because there is a system of doing it. And you've probably heard of some of this stuff before. You've probably heard these terms right here: kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Maybe you've heard that. Animal kingdom. That was a television show. Wild Kingdom. Yeah, Animal Kingdom. So the way this works is you're going from the very, very general down to the very, very specific. So kingdom, for example, the animal kingdom encompasses all animals from an from a insect all the way up to a human or a lion or a cat or a dog or a lizard or a sponge or a jellyfish. Those are all animals. They're all part of the animal kingdom. Phylum separates them out a little bit more. For example, does the animal have a spinal cord or a vertebral column, a backbone? A jellyfish does not. It's still an animal, but it is an invertebrate. It does not have a spine. Uh, Rhinoceroses do. They are vertebrates. And then it goes down even to more and more specific. And a way to remember this is using what's called a mnemonic memory device. And I remember this from the 7th grade. My 7th grade teacher taught me this phrase, and I just always remembered it. I couldn't tell you why, I just did. And that's how I always remembered this. So you take the first initial of every letter, the first letter of each word, and change it to like something that's a little easier to remember. So kings play chess on fine glass stools. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Kings play chess on fine glass stools. I have no idea why I remembered that, but it worked. Mr. Tupper, 7th grade, circa 1990. So the man accomplished his goal in making me remember this, right? Kings play chess on fine glass stools. There you go. If you want to come up with something different, just with different letters that makes it easier for you to remember, that's fine. This is just what I remembered. So you can remember that. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Kings play chess on fine glass stools. Yeah, good times. So we've probably all seen this image before. This is Leonardo, wow, I cannot speak. Leonardo da Vinci wrote this. This is called the Vitruvian Man. That's the name of this image. Leonardo da Vinci was into studying anatomy, among other things. And this is a human. The Vitruvian Man. The full scientific name of a human is Animalia cordata, Mammalia, Primates, Hominidae, Homo sapiens. We've probably all heard that part before. Homo sapien. That's the last two parts. So, kingdom, Animalia. Phylum, Chordata. Class is Mammalia. Order is Primates. Family is Hominidae. Genus, Homo. Species, Sapiens. Notice this word right here, Primates. Primates. What are some other primates? Chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, marmosets, lemurs, macaques. We're related to them. We are in the same genus. Mammals. Cats, dogs, lions, horses. You see how we're going from like the very general animals, has a spinal cord, is a mammal, is a primate. Hominidie has to do with fingers. Not sure exactly what. Homo, same. Sapiens. Here's the word here that kind of really separates us out from everything else. Sapiens, meaning sapient, which means the ability to reason and think. Even though like there's other animals like dolphins and chimpanzees, they can still think. A lot of them kind of have the intelligence of, 4 or 5-year-old children on, there are some cases where they have the ability to think and be intelligent, but in terms of like reasoning and planning far out for the future, so far as we know, humans are it. Humans can take a container of water and bury it in the ground with the intention of saying, hey, I might need that in a month. We haven't seen any animals do anything kind of similar to that in a sapient way. So anyways, moving on. Check this out. So they were going to use this example here of a camel, a Bactrian camel, a two-humped camel. So starting at the very broadest definition here, we've got kingdom, the animal kingdom. But all this stuff here can be in the animal kingdom. Camels, llamas, giraffes, squirrels, coral snakes, sea stars, all that stuff is an animal. Okay, but let's move up to phylum. All right, well, all these things still have a spinal cord, except for this one. The sea star is an invertebrate, no spinal cord, so it is not in the phylum Chordata. It's in a different phylum, so no sea star. Next one, Mammalia. All right, which one's dropped out now? The snake. The snake is not a mammal, so it is not in class Mammalia. But all this other stuff is camels, llamas, giraffes, squirrels. Artiodactyla, the order. Okay, so squirrels, no, they're not in this order. They're in something else. But all these animals, they're similar. You can kind of see how they're kind of converging onto something very similar. Giraffes, llamas, camels, they're in order Artiodactyla. This has to do with the number of toes on their feet. Two-toed creatures. Family, Camelidae. Okay, this has to do with the fatty storage on their back. Giraffes, nope, not in Camelidae. Genus, Camelus. Species, Camelus bactriana. See how we're going from like very general all the way down to specific here. So the full name of a Bactrius camel is Animalia chordata mammalia artiodactyla Camelidae camelus bactrianus. Now you are not going to have to memorize the full entire species name for any animal in your whole life, unless you're a biologist. But just understand that these long, complex names are necessary because there are so many different species of animal on Earth. Now, the way we classify things is changing. It's not like set in stone. It's arbitrary. How we name stuff is up to us. There's no like master book where it's like, here's how you have to name these animals. It's changing, and rightly so, because we're always learning new things about species on Earth. We think that most of the larger species have been discovered. Most of them. There's probably some still hiding in deep rainforests or maybe even deep under the ocean that we haven't found yet. But most of them, we probably got most of them. But that doesn't mean we haven't discovered all of them. And there's new insects and new bacteria and all kinds of stuff deep under the ocean that we're discovering all the time. So the naming system may have to change to accommodate that as new discoveries are made. But currently, usually, right now, we've got stuff divided into 6, sometimes 7 kingdoms, depending on who you ask. I know. Scientists have a hard time agreeing on stuff. But right now, the 6 kingdoms are plant, animal, protists, Monera, eukaryota, and archaebacteria. So Animalia, yeah, it's kind of obvious. That's like plants. I'm sorry, Animalia is animals. It's early. Plantae is plants. Monera is like algae. certain types of seaweed, stuff like that. Protista are microscopic organisms that are more than bacteria, but not quite animals yet. And that's kind of the fuzzy one that people are wondering if, that should have a different kingdom or be grouped into another kingdom. And you have eubacteria, which are eukaryotic organisms, and then you have archaebacteria or prokaryota, which is prokaryotic bacteria. So 6 kingdoms. This system is kind of being phased out in favor of another one. So, let's look at this. Look at all the different things. How specific can you name this thing, this dress? It's a dress. It's a red dress. It's a cloth red dress. Cotton cloth red dress. Size 2 cotton cloth red dress. Women's size 2 cotton cloth red dress. You're going from the very general down to the specific. So grouping things into domains makes it even a little bit more general than kingdom. So one domain is bacteria. And you have, in this grouping is kind of your everyday type bacteria, prokaryotic organisms without a nucleus, your everyday infectious bacteria, things like streptococcus, strep throat, or E. coli, stuff like that. Infectious bacteria, prokaryotic, no nucleus. But you can also group them into archaea, and these are like the weird prokaryotes. Extremophiles that we talked about a couple of lessons ago. Things that don't conform to like your everyday normal bacteria. These are very, very old organisms, some of the first that were ever on planet Earth. That's why they're called archaea. Archaea means old, like archaeology. And these are things that live like down by the hydrothermal vents or deep in the rocks. Extremophiles, things that use strange ways, strange versions of chemosynthesis to stay alive. So those are like so old and so different that they justify their own domain, archaea. But both of these are microorganisms, basically different types of bacteria. And then the third domain that's much larger is eukarya. And that's where the other stuff that we are more familiar with, like the protists, amoebas, parameciums, the single-celled critters that you can see if you look at a drop of water under a microscope, protistas, fungus, plants, and animals. Those all fall into eukarya. So, all right, so that is like the introduction to how to classify plants and animals using the traditional naming method, which is called Linnaean taxonomic nomenclature. It was made by Carl Linnaeus. I think that was covered in the last lesson. But he's the guy who started this all up and looked at the different traits and said, okay, we can separate them out into these categories. So all you really need to remember is kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Just know that it's going from very general down to the specific. You don't have to memorize any specific scientific names for anything. But be familiar with the domains, the 3 domains here. Okay, be familiar with the kingdoms, protists, fungi, plant, animal, bacteria, eubacteria, and kind of just be able to understand how each level of the classification system can impact how specific you're getting with each animal species that you're looking at. So there will be more on this. We're going to get into kind of evolutionary classification in the next video, talking about clades and phylogenetic trees. We're going to get into that on the next lesson. That is a more accurate system, and it even includes stuff that is no longer on Earth. It can include extinct animals. So you thought you were talking about a big tree before, a big group before. Now imagine every single species that's ever lived on Earth, both living and extinct. Now you're getting into something crazy. But the phylogenetic tree can actually include that, and it shows evolutionary relationships between something that is extinct versus something that's living today. So a lot of people have heard that certain dinosaurs, the little guys, the little ones that survived the asteroid impact, they evolved into birds. You know, and you can see many, many similar relationships when you look at fossils of little dinosaurs, and then you look at birds today. I mean, look at ostriches. I mean, they throw some teeth and some scales on an ostrich and some little frumpy arms, and there's a dinosaur, right? So they're very similar. That the phylogenetic tree will include that, and we'll talk about that a little bit the next time. All right, that's going to do it for today. Your multiple choice question is coming up right now.